Today, we're going to talk about McConnell's efforts already to block Democrats from taking power in the Senate, an almost impossibly humiliating misstep by Ted Cruz, and my interview with former Obama speechwriter and host of Pod Save America, Jon Favreau, where we talk about our options to deal with McConnell's power grab, whether OAN and Newsmax should get credentials during the Biden era, and much more. I'm Brian Tyler Cohen, and you're listening to No Lie. Well, it is the first week of Biden's administration, and just like the Republicans promised during their relentless calls for unity, they've decided to come together with Democrats so they could help Joe Biden govern the country. Just kidding. They are relentlessly obstructing every single facet of Democrats' ability to get anything done. Seriously, already there's obstruction from Mitch McConnell on a power-sharing agreement that's intended to just start the work of the Senate. They're obstructing the part that comes before they can even really start obstructing. Just to give a quick explanation, Schumer and McConnell have been negotiating a power-sharing agreement, an organizing resolution, and until they do, Democrats can't officially take control of the Senate. But McConnell is stalling on passing it until he gets an assurance that the filibuster will stay intact, meaning that Democrats will need 60 votes to pass all legislation. Some stuff can be passed through a process called budget reconciliation that requires only 51 votes, but it has to pertain to the budget. So most legislation will need to meet that 60-vote threshold. And so, in effect, McConnell is filibustering the organizing resolution as a way to ensure that Democrats don't nuke the filibuster, thereby making the best case that could possibly exist to do exactly that, to nuke the filibuster. He's showing us, proving that he will obstruct, and he's doing it regarding the very tool that would prevent obstruction. So if you needed a reason to not support keeping the filibuster intact, Mitch McConnell just gave it to you. And bear in mind, while Republicans will inevitably start crowing about the sanctity of the filibuster and ensuring that there's enough of a threshold so that a bipartisan majority of senators pass legislation, a few things here. First, if Mitch McConnell cared about bipartisan legislation, we wouldn't have just gone through 6 years of him refusing to bring any Democratic legislation to the floor for even a vote. Hundreds of bills were left languishing on McConnell's desk, votes that had bipartisan support in the House and would have had bipartisan support in the Senate. You don't brand yourself the Grim Reaper of the Senate and then turn around and pretend that you're in favor of preserving the sanctity of robust bipartisan problem solving. And beyond that, Republicans already showed their hand on how much they care about preserving the thing when they nuked it themselves to ram through Amy Coney Barrett's nomination to the Supreme Court. So apparently, with Biden's priorities of delivering unemployment insurance or relief checks for Americans who are trying to survive amid a pandemic that Republicans let explode throughout this country, well, we must maintain a 60-vote threshold. But a lifetime appointment for a Federalist Society judge to get rammed through a confirmation process while Americans are voting Trump out of office? Yeah, no, that's totally fine. So what I hope, and frankly what I expect will happen, is that Schumer holds the line, considering there is absolutely zero reason why Democrats, who just took the majority, should be contracting an ounce of power to Republicans. Like, I get that McConnell's entire identity revolves around consolidating power, but Democrats just won an election, and the way to reward the people who turned out in record numbers for you is to act like it. And by the way, the issue of the filibuster isn't the only issue that Republicans are fighting for the sake of fighting, while simultaneously crowing about unity. Predictably, they're pushing back on everything, on a $15 minimum wage because, God forbid, people afford enough to feed themselves after working 40 hours a week, on the COVID package because, God forbid, people have an ounce of relief while trying to survive during a pandemic that Republicans themselves advertised would miraculously disappear. But my favorite one is Biden's decision to rejoin the Paris Climate Agreement because the self-appointed spokesperson against this effort is none other than Ted Cruz. And his argument is this. He tweeted, "By rejoining the Paris Climate Agreement, President Biden indicates he's more interested in the views of the citizens of Paris than in the jobs of the citizens of Pittsburgh. This agreement will do little to affect the climate and will harm the livelihoods of Americans." And he did it again with some other iteration of that tweet. He wrote, "Who do you stand with, Paris or Pittsburgh? If you support blue-collar union workers, if you stand for jobs, get your free bumper sticker here." Okay, so a few things about this whole campaign against rejoining the Paris Climate Agreement. First of all, the planet is melting. So that's one. Second, I don't understand how Ted Cruz from Texas has decided that he's anointed himself the spokesperson for Pittsburgh, but his last major act was trying to get the entire state of Pennsylvania disenfranchised so that the guy who humiliated his wife could steal the election. So I don't know exactly how much goodwill he's won himself with the citizens of that state that he does not represent. Third, this choice between Pittsburgh or Paris overlooks the fact that the city of Pittsburgh literally supports the Paris Climate Agreement. The mayor of Pittsburgh already put this issue to rest back when Trump made the same tired Pittsburgh versus Paris argument. He said, quote, "As the mayor of Pittsburgh, I can assure you that we will follow the guidelines of the Paris Agreement for our people, our economy, and our future." Fourth, Ted Cruz doesn't care about unions any more than he cares about anyone not named Ted Cruz. The guy has a 6% rating from the AFL-CIO. 6%. That is 3 times lower than the average Senate Republican. Fifth, Ted Cruz is not blue collar. The guy makes $174,000 a year at least, and his wife is a managing director at Goldman Sachs. And finally, the Paris Climate Agreement isn't for Paris. It's for the entire world, including Pittsburgh, and including Ted Cruz's home state of Texas, which itself just in the last few years has contended with devastating weather that was exacerbated by climate change. The fact that the agreement was signed in Paris doesn't mean it's only for Parisians. Kind of like how the Geneva Convention didn't just establish humanitarian treatment standards in Switzerland, and the Treaty of Versailles didn't just end World War I at the Palace of Versailles. And Ted Cruz knows this, but he is incapable of shame, and so he will continue to say it even if the entire internet collectively shits on him. Oh, and by the way, in the 2018 cycle, Ted Cruz was the #1 recipient of oil and gas money. Probably should have mentioned that earlier. He got almost $800,000 in that one cycle, more than any other politician in the country, according to Open Secrets. So if you're wondering why Ted Cruz might be positioning himself against the 77% of Americans who believe that it's more important for the US to be developing alternative energy sources like solar and wind than to produce more coal and oil and fossil fuels, it's because they're paying him. That's it. It's not any more complicated than that. Ted Cruz stands for Ted Cruz. And if fossil fuel companies are going to cut him checks to tweet stupid shit like Pittsburgh over Paris, then guess what? He's going to do that because Ted Cruz is only driven by his own ambition. And so that's what you need to remember when Republicans call for unity, that it's being done in bad faith. Because unity was never anything more than a desperate attempt by the right to demand that Biden Democrats capitulate to them, despite Democrats taking control of government. They didn't care about unity for the last 4 years. They don't care about unity now while trying to cling on to the filibuster. They don't care about unity while propping up bad faith platitudes about Pittsburgh. It is about power. And it doesn't matter whether it comes from McConnell or Ted Cruz or Josh Hawley or any of them, because their goals are all the same. The point being that Democrats should govern. They should enact their agenda swiftly and decisively and follow the mandate that they were given by 81 million Americans. And most importantly, they should give no credence whatsoever to the bad faith actors on the right because they've already tipped their hands and showed their cards. And the fact of the matter is that they've got nothing. So now our job is to govern like it. To listen to my interview with Jon Favreau, where we talk about our options to deal with McConnell's power grab, whether the OANs and Newsmaxes of the world should get credentials during the Biden era, and much more, check out the interviews playlist on my YouTube channel. That's it for this episode. Talk to you next time.